Here we are, second show of the season, second location of the season already. And as I've just remembered, it is now the second Juve fan that we've had on the show. I have instantly remembered one from a long time ago. But we are joined by another Juve fan. And of course, I'm joined by my good friend
Adam. So hello again. I've been welcomed back for another episode. So thank you, Rory. But more importantly, as you do say, we are joined by a guest, someone that I have looked at fondly from TikTok. So I might as well introduce him. So he calls himself Mr. Azzurri TV. But more importantly to me and Rory, he's called Alfredo. So Alfredo, welcome to the Anglo-Italian podcast. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. It's my first podcast, breaking my podcast cherry today. Very excited to be here.
We'll be gentle, don't worry. We'll be gentle.
Definitely. So, Rory, how are you doing? More importantly, as well.
I'm good. I'm now moved from Eastbourne back up to sunny Crewe, seeing the family. As you can see, I'm in the box room of my parents' house, living the dream. Before I go down to southern Italy and then finally to Milan. So it's all living out of bagpacks at the minute. But summer camp's done. I survived. And I'm ready to talk Serie A and Premier League. How have you been, Adam?
Yeah, good. I've unfortunately had a bout of COVID, but I'm out of it. So, yeah, the isolation did kill me over the weekend, but it did give me enough opportunity to watch all of the football, like isolated and in peace and quiet, more importantly. So, yeah, lots to reflect on, I'm sure. And game week 1 in Serie A was definitely a good talking point. So let's get started because there was lots of goals. But Rory, where do you want to begin?
Well, I'm going to start by letting Alfredo introduce himself. So, tell people like me, what is TikTok? How did you discover it, and what do you do on there?
I guess TikTok's a kind of video content app. You know, people can make short little videos. I've actually had it for about 1.5 years now, and then I think I started. Maybe it was the day after Roma won the Conference League final, and I just did a few videos about the final and what I thought about it, and then I just kind of kept it going. Always argue and discuss Italian football with my family, my friends. So I thought, throw it out there on TikTok, see what happens.
Very nice, very nice. So what was it about that final that made you think, you know what, I have to talk about this?
Well, to be honest, the first time I actually sat down and tried to make a TikTok was after the Macedonia game. I sat down and tried to make it, and I was just I just couldn't. I had no kind of hold of my emotions, so I was like, okay, I can't do this now. I waited a few months. And then, I don't know.
You take some breaths. Yeah.
But then I don't know. I don't know what it was. I just I've been thinking about it for a while, and I just kind of go in front of the camera and started talking. Then when I watched those first videos back, I was very robotic, and I'd never really been on camera before. So I try not to go back to those ones very often.
Yeah, I'm sure, Adam, it's the same for you. But if I listen to our first couple of podcasts, I'm like, oh my god, you can hear us like stuttering and stumbling, looking for our notes and like reading. I'm like, oh god, it's awful. Some may say it's not got much better, but I'm sure it was the same for you, Adam, right?
Yeah, we're still getting the follows, right? So that's the most important thing. Yeah. But more importantly, Alfredo, let's introduce your team. So who is your Italian team?
So I'm a Juve fan, rather unfortunately at the moment. Yeah, like my brothers were big Juve fans, and I kind of fell in love with Del Piero and Buffon at a very young age, and kind of just stuck from there.
Definitely. So let's talk about your beloved Juventus. So obviously
Yes.
on the Monday night, so a bit of a late kickoff for Juventus, but they did manage to scramble a 3-0 win against the Swallow. For the first 20 minutes, I have to say, it did look like last season's Allegri ball was starting to hit Juventus fans by the wayside, but you managed to get the goal through Di Maria, well-timed volley, it has to be said. But then from then onwards, it seemed like Juve were in dominant form. What's your kind of overriding thoughts of that game in particular?
Well, I went into the game not confident at all. Well, not confident because it was Sassuolo, and Sassuolo's defense is, so leaky. But going into it, I just thought it'd be the same as last season. I had no confidence. I wasn't expecting much. I wasn't expecting to be overawed with, tiki-taka, wonderful football. And for the first 20, 25 minutes, me and my dad were sat in front of the television, and, we were saying, oh, fuck, nothing's changed. Same old Allegri. He's a dime, he's this, he's that. And then once that Di Maria goal went in, it was like it just kind of flick switched, and they kind of started finding their rhythm a bit more. I think Sassuolo's heads went down a little bit as well, which helped. But yeah, after that, I think, Juve kind of strolled it, to be honest. They didn't really get out of second or third gear. Vlahovic looked extremely sharp up front. Di Maria was the best player on the pitch by far. So unfortunately, he picked up an adductor injury halfway through. Bremer at the back, I thought, looked incredibly solid. Even Alexandro played well, which was the biggest surprise of the night. But yeah, no, I think 3 points, 3 goals, clean sheet. Yeah.
It's a pretty good way to start the season, to be fair. It's a pretty good way. And like Sassuolo, like you said, that they do have like a leaky defence, but they are a team that does have the potential to pull off surprises. They do beat the big boys every so often. I think for Allegri to have that high scoring win to start the season is probably a nice little like middle finger to people who might be
to people like me.
Yeah. But Di Maria as well. Like we were talking about it last week, Adam, about how he has the potential. Like Serie A is a league where older players do tend to do quite well, and I think Di Maria could be. For my Fanta Calcio, I'm already thinking I'm going to have to be bidding a lot for him. I think he could have a big season.
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised at the positioning because I thought he'd be more in the register role as they kind of earmarked for him. But potentially that's due to the fact that I think Juve, and maybe Alfredo will speculate on this, but it looks like they're still trying to get some strikers through the door. I was going to ask Alfredo what he thought of the business, not necessarily just coming in, but also what you've managed to get out as well, because I think that's been a bit of a surprise. We'll talk about a certain Rabiot at some point, I'm sure. But from your point of view, how's the business from Juve's point of view?
I think it's been good. I don't think you can. There's not really many areas left to strengthen. I think maybe a striker just to play second fiddle to Vlahovic would be good. Depay, I think, is kind of the name being tossed around at the moment, which I think Depay, for all his shortcomings, I'm not sure he has the best attitude in the world, but technically
as a player, I think he's massively underrated. I think he's hugely underrated. Yeah.
Extremely skillful, extremely technical. He's quick. So I think, he'd be good just as, I just don't want to see Morata back at Juve. I just don't want to see him back. I
don't think everybody's pushing him from pillar to post.
It's just anyone but Morata. But I mean, Pogba coming in is huge. I think Juve's midfield last season was bar Locatelli, who I love. I think watching Rabiot and McKennie, they're not the kind of players who really inspire one. You don't think, wow, Can't wait to
see Weston tearing it up.
They're not those kind of players. McKennie, I like. I think he's honest and he works extremely hard, but technically he's not. He's not the greatest in the world. But and Bremer at the back, who I mean, I don't think there's going to be much disparity between him and De Ligt in terms of ability. I mean, already, I think, from what I've seen from Bremer last season and that first game against Sassuolo, he's a bit of a Rolls Royce of a centre back. I said the other day, he reminds me a lot of Thiago Silva when he first joined Milan, and he's just very elegant and classy, but strong, quick, imposing. He's got all those kind of characteristics. But yeah, I think it's been a good window from Juve.
I think with Bremer, he seems to flap a little less than De Ligt. I think De Ligt often finds himself. He would often he looked like he would panic, or he'd make a rush decision and give away a handball, which was like the meme thing, right? Or he seemed a bit more flappable than Bremer maybe. And I think, again, we said it last week because it looked so close for Inter to get in Bremer. I thought it was done at one point. I think for Juve to come in and do that is huge, like absolutely huge. Yeah.
It was a big statement, definitely.
Yeah, massive.
So, Rory, let's move on to some of the other games because let's start off with the champions. So, Milan, they kicked off in style 4-2 against Udinese. Udinese, I think they just forgot their defence on the day. But, yeah, it has to be said, though, Rodrigo Bacau, obviously, what a defender. He seems to score his goals against Milan as well, doesn't he? But were you a bit taken back by the scoreline itself?
I don't feel like Milan got many of these scorelines last year. I feel like there was a lot of 1-0 or by 1 goal margins, right? And I was definitely taken aback. Rebic getting 2. I don't think anybody saw that happening, right? I don't think anybody, that would have been the coupon buster, I think. But yeah, great, again, almost similar to Juve, a great opening day win, get the goals flowing against a team that, again, has the potential to upset people. But we were saying before, we're not quite sure what to make of Milan this year and what we're going to see from them. But I think that's as good a start as they could have wished for. Again, against Udinese, who do cause problems, even if they are a bit, they could be in danger. I'm not sure. Yeah,
they're a weird one, aren't they? But Deulofeu almost had a chance. I think it was when it was 2-2 or potentially coming up to 2-1, something like that. And it was just fortunate that I think Milan's defense, in particular Kalulu, who has been absolutely just a monster since Kiar went off injured. But the interesting thing for me was Brahim Diaz as well. He seems like he was a completely different midfielder to what we saw for the second part of last season. Because if you remember, he had a really good start with Tonali. And I think there was a lot of question marks about whether he would actually be there for this season. But he's certainly cementing his kind of place there right now. And I think it's going to be hard for the likes of the Ketelaere to potentially come through as well because of the form of these other players. But yeah, I mean, from your point of view, even Alfredo, what do you make of Milan? I mean, we kind of thought that they might not be maybe Scudetto champions again, but on this form, they certainly look like potentials, don't they?
Well, I predicted that it would be Inter and Milan together fighting for the Scudetto again. And last year I loved watching Milan. Last year I thought they were such a lovely team to watch. They had such a clear attacking identity. They were so exciting, and there were glimpses of that on Saturday. I think they still looked a little bit rusty. They hadn't quite clicked into gear yet. Obviously Tonali was out, who was so important last year. But yeah, I mean, if they can continue playing in the way they did last year and just keep that form and that kind of confidence that they had, I see no reason why they won't be up there challenging it again.
Yeah, definitely. And as long as Rafael Leao is injury free, then I think they stand a hell of a chance. Let's talk about Inter then. They seem to be playing on a potato pitch for most of it. But Lukaku is off the mark as well. Let's talk about
I've got a lot of time for Inter getting the late drama in from the first game of the season. Having the most Inter win ever to start the season is
didn't look like they were going to get it as well.
It's a new form of Inter.
Was insane. Falcone. I mean, I really rate him from his Sampdoria days, but for some reason Samp don't want him. So really fortunate for Lecce, I suppose, to an extent. But again, Lecce was a very interesting side to watch as well, because they did really frustrate the hell out of Inter, especially when they got that equaliser through Cisse. I mean, after that, I felt like this was the Inter of old, as in last season's Inter, where they kind of dominate games, but they get really frustrated when it doesn't go their way, and then they've got no plan B.
Just run out of ideas, right?
Yeah. I mean, the one thing I think Inzaghi reflected on was that he's got more quality off the bench as well this time round. So he was able to bring in Dzeko when he needed to. I know Dzeko was used quite a lot last season, but again, that was just one of those performances where I thought, as it was going to that last corner, I thought, yeah, Inter screw this one up again. They're going to get just a point. And that might not necessarily be a bad thing, because I don't think many teams are going to go to Lecce and necessarily win, especially on that pitch. It was absolutely atrocious. But I'll get your thoughts, Alfredo, as well.
Yeah, I actually completely agree with you. Going to Lecce, first game of the season, their first game back in Serie A, it was on that pitch. I mean, I've seen pitches made of sand that are probably flatter than that. And they weren't convincing at all. Inter, they were the better team, but Lecce was so honest and hard working.
Yeah,
I did feel gutted for them at the end, because as much as Inter were the better team,
but it's one of those where you want to see them get their like their hard work pay off, right? Yeah. I think they're a team that are going to cause problems. I think they're not going to be someone that's like, they're not going to be what people expected Salernitana to be, if you know what I mean. I think they're honestly going to cause a lot of problems, and it's a tough place to go. It's definitely a tough place to go. But Inter got the job done, right? Yes. 3 points. Yes. Lukaku scored. Yes. There's a lot of like boxes ticked there to just on to the next one, I think. But I did like it was such a late winner. It felt very, very Inter, very Pazza Inter.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
Let's move on to Monza then. This was the outsiders, I suppose, to begin with. We thought they were the team that might cause a surprise, but they certainly did it in a different way by losing to Torino. Rory.
It's quite impressive. I put it on Twitter, like, our tip of the weekend, back Monza to beat Torino, and I was like, oh God. That is the last tip of the weekend, guys. It was the first and last one. I'm retiring on that.
Yeah, exactly.
I was really disappointed. Really, really disappointed. I thought Torino had a bit of a messy summer. Like, there was the video of the manager fighting with the sporting director and nothing going right, and Monza bringing in everyone. I really did expect a better performance, but yeah, just flattered to deceive a little bit. Like, what did you make of it, Adam?
Yeah, they were, like you say, really disappointing. The only highlight I've written down as part of my notes was Danny Motta. He looks really good. So that'll be interesting to see what his form is like. But again, I was a bit surprised by the picks in terms of their first 11, because like we talked about Kragnell, for example, as a goalkeeper. I thought he would have started, for example. Pacino was obviously missing. There's a number of these players where you're thinking interesting. But let's talk about Torino as well. Like you said, they had a really bad summer. Even the coach was talking about that he couldn't replace certain players because he hadn't been given any funds. I was surprised to see Marinchuk kind of turn up from Atalanta and scoring. So
I didn't really realise he was there.
I didn't even know that. But I mean, if there's anything that kind of highlights this game was there was a scene in the highlights where it just focused on Berlusconi. I couldn't believe how young he looks. Like, he had that just for men, jet black hair.
He's invented a new age. He's invented a new number. Like,
you wouldn't have guessed that he's like 95 or something like that. But incredible. But
and he's ready to run for president again. He's not done yet.
Of course.
I think we were hoping Monza would keep him distracted, but I think he's got time for both somehow.
Yeah, exactly. Let's talk about Napoli then as well. Interesting result there. 5-2 winners against Verona. We talked about the Georgian wonder kid, so we'll call him Kavica just to make sure. Have you got the pronunciation?
I had a Georgian student at summer camp, and he said they just say Kvara. So they just call him Kvara. Really easy, nice and simple. I was very relieved. He did try and teach me the full word, but I was like, does he have a nickname? Okay, yeah. Kvara, there we go, done. Yeah. He scores on his debut.
And he set up Zielinski as well, didn't he? And Osimhen doing the Mbappe celebration to Verona fans. That was quite epic as well, to be fair. But Verona, I think they're going to really struggle this season. I mean, we'll talk about Simeone. He's obviously gone to Napoli, but I do feel really worried about them. I think they'll do enough to stay on, but I think I saw earlier this week that Barak wants out as well. So
it's a real shame, because last year last year they were one of my favourite teams in Serie A to watch. That front three was one of the deadliest in Europe. Like, it seemed like a team that they only just missed out on Europe, right? I think they missed out on one place, and it felt like it was a team that was ready to push on. And then now it seems like the team's just going to get picked apart. It is a real shame. But for Napoli to get Simeone, I think that could be incredible in that kind of Mertens role. I think he could do so well there. And we've seen he just scores absolute bangers. Like, that's all he does is just score screamers. I think he could be incredibly popular in Naples. I think it's a hell of a signing. But you're right, for Verona, it seems like they were on the cusp of getting somewhere, and now they're kind of chasing it. I don't know. What do you think, Alfredo?
Well, I think Napoli, for a start, looked excellent. I wasn't expecting much from them, but they were probably out of the top six sides. I think they were the most exciting to watch. I thought they were so vivacious going forward. Kappa Kappa, as my best friend Christian likes to call him, Kvaratskhelia, he looked really, really sharp. Although I wasn't expecting him to score a header, but he popped up with.
I was surprised.
But yeah, he looked. I thought that Lozano as well, considering he spent a lot of last season, a lot of rumours of him wanting out. I thought he looked extremely sharp. But most importantly, that midfield, a midfield that I previously haven't rated at all. Zielinski I like, but Anguissa and Lobotka, I was never overawed.
Really?
I thought they were, as a three, I think they're such a great balance together, and they all complement each other so well. I mean, I thought Anguissa was excellent. Lobotka was, I don't know what he had before that game, but he was incredible.
I think last season he was a player that really shocked me, because I thought he was just always on the bench, and then he just came into the team, and all of a sudden I was like, wow, this guy can really affect games and create plays. And I thought Anguissa was one of the signings of the season last year at Napoli. I genuinely thought that spine they had of Koulibaly, him and Osimhen, I thought this is you can build a huge team around them. I think that midfield, Zambo, I'm a big fan of. Yeah, huge fan of.
Yeah. But let's also talk about the fact that Fabian Ruiz is rumoured to be potentially isolated if he doesn't get a move to PSG. So, that's a bit of the De Laurentiis kind of tactic, isn't it? Just isolate and make sure he doesn't get what he wants. Yeah. But yeah, Alfredo, that for me, I think he could fit in any of the Serie A teams, to be fair. I think he could do a really good job. Man United, you could do better, but again, I'm not going to suggest to them to do something because they're linked with hundreds of players at the moment. But yeah, from your point of view, again, he's not a player that could do a job for Napoli, even if he was called upon.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of the best midfielders in Serie A. He's a very eye-catching player. He's a very good-looking player on the ball. He's very elegant. Classic kind of Spanish midfielder, but he's got a bit of grinta about him. And to be honest, I think in Serie A he probably walks into any midfield in Serie A. I'm not sure what's going to happen with him. I read that rumor earlier about him being frozen out. I just thought, De Laurentiis.
He's such a tool. He's such a tool. I know a few Napoli fans, and none of them are particularly fans of him. If you know what I mean, even though he's owned the club and got them from where they were to where they are, they're still we tolerate you more than like you. If you know what I mean, I think he's a very, very difficult character.
Yeah, definitely. One other side that has been promoted to Serie A, that's Cremonese. They were very unlucky against Fiorentina, but Fiorentina did do well or enough. We will talk about Radu's error again, I'm sure, in detail. But if we talk about the goals, Luka Jovic is off the mark now as well, so he's doing quite well. Okorenke, I thought, did a really good goal for Cremonese when he brought it back at level. But it was incredible.
Well, he was great for Venezia last season. He was great for Venezia. I think they had a few players in that squad, just not quite enough quality, obviously. But between him and Henry, that isn't Henry, they had some really good squad players in that squad.
I call him Henry just to differentiate between the two.
I think Okereke was one of the players that stood out, right? So it was good to see him getting back
definitely.
in there again. Definitely.
But yeah, I think
Mandragora scoring as well.
Yes, definitely. But Cremonese, I think they got done by that sending off to Escalante. It was just basically just a mistimed tackle, and that was it, literally, and that killed him off. But Radu again costing his team that guy
I felt gutted
really
for
needs
him.
help,
I really
doesn't he?
did. I really felt gutted for him. I mean, with the lasting memory of last season being that era that cost into the league, basically. And then first game of this season doing that, I just felt, oh no. I just cringed watching it.
It's kind of Loris Karius vibes where you're like, are you going to recover from this now?
Yeah.
Are you going to recover from this? It's kind of, it's sad to see, but my God, what an error. And there was a lot of Inter fans last year saying he should have been starting ahead of Handanovic because they hated Handanovic that much. And I saw friend of the show, Uncle Sharma, just retweeting it like, are we still sure Radu was better than Handanovic? Because I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced. Yeah, it was a gutting moment for them because it was so close to, again, getting a great start to the season, right? That would have been a huge start
they did
them.
so well in that match. Last one on my list, Salernitana against Roma. Quite straightforward win for Roma, has to be said. They could have won by more. Zaniolo I think it's just sharpness really for the kids because his runs at times was just mesmeric, to be fair. And with Tammy and Dybala, they just need to get that kind of timing right between the three of them because they seem like they are ready to gun a lot of these teams in Serie A. They really look the deal. On the flip side, Salernitana, I mean, they're like last season. I can't believe they're even in this league.
They've had their season. This is going to be a long one for them. This is going to be a long one.
I think it might be,
Yeah, that was a real big struggle. But points from you, Alfredo. What did you make of Roma?
Well, I was very impressed in the first half. I think there was glimpses of what's to come. I think they just need to click. Zaniolo, especially, I've got such a love for him, and those driving runs he went on at that pace. I know he's a professional footballer, but I ruptured my ACL 11 months ago, and even playing football now, I'm not back ready yet, but I'm like a robot. I'm so stiff. And after him doing both of his knees at such a young age and being able to play like that is absolutely outstanding. I thought he looked so sharp. Dybala looked good in the first half, but then I think once they scored in the second half, Mourinho just went, guys, you know what to do. And,
yeah. Let's see this one out. Yeah.
But Spinazzola as well, I thought looked excellent. It was so nice. His first competitive 90 minutes since getting his injury against Belgium, and he looked super sharp. And it was great to see him back. But yeah, I think there were certainly glimpses of what's to come, and that front four of Pellegrini, Dybala, Zaniolo, and Abraham is.
That's a proper front. That is a proper attacking force. Like between Pellegrini, he can do everything. He just does everything. Yeah. And like you said, I think Zaniolo, his attitude gets called into question a lot, but I think there's nothing on the pitch that makes me doubt his attitude at all. I think he's a proper competitor and he fights for everything. And then you've got Tammy Abraham who just finishes everything that drops in front of him. I think that is like a proper front four. The only thing is they need to keep Dybala fit. That is the big issue. They need to keep him fit. I
mean, that's just, it's potluck whether he stays fit or not because his injury history is so checkered. Good luck. Good luck is all I can say with that.
Yeah. Do we think their defence is strong enough for this season? Just out of curiosity, Alfredo, yourself as well, Rory, because I always feel like they have their moments, especially Mancini. I mean, I know he's a bit of a madman at times, but yeah, I mean, that's the only area that I feel like they haven't really strengthened. I appreciate they are strong enough, but during the whole course of the season, do we think they are strong enough? What's your thoughts, Alfredo?
Well, I think they certainly improved the latter half of last season. I was at the King Power when they played Leicester in the semi-final, and Ibanez, all three of them, in fact, that day were absolutely excellent. They were probably the three best players on the pitch. And I think since the kind of latter end of last season, every time I watched Roma, they looked fairly strong. And, I think Ibanez and Mancini both especially are so rash. They're two of the most rash defenders in Serie A. But I do like both of them. Smalling's probably the most level-headed out of the three. And I think with a year under their belt with Mourinho, I think this year they'll be fine.
Yeah, I think... I think we saw a taste of it in the Conference League final. They defended from the second they scored the goal, right? And the defence there as a team was outstanding. And I think Mourinho knows what he does well, and what he does well is team defensive shape. And I think they do know how to do it. And now he also has that attacking threat. Serie A should be worried about Mourinho lifting it again. I think because he could coach them there. He could definitely coach them,
especially if they get Belotti as well. I mean, that's still, I can't
Seems to
believe
be
he's
taking
not
a
been
while,
signed.
that one.
What's
It seems
going
to be
on?
taking a while. I thought that was done, and then
they're trying to ship what's it?
Shmorodov.
Oh, Shmorodov,
Yeah.
that didn't work. Did it? I was excited
No.
about him. That really didn't work at all, did it?
No.
Did not work. No,
not at all.
But I think the thing with Roma is that like they've got, if Belotti does sign, suddenly if you look at that team from a bird's eye view, that there's not really any weakness or clear weakness in that side. You've got Spinazzola, Zalewski on the left. Karsdorp, who I don't rate at all, to be honest. But Celik looks exciting. I've heard a lot of good things about him from Lille.
Yeah.
In midfield, Cristante, Matic, Wijnaldum.
Wijnaldum as well,
Yeah.
Going forward, they've got so many options at the back that I just don't see many obvious weaknesses in that side.
No, there's not many. But if it is, it's going to be Mourinho's tactics. That's all that's going to kill them if it comes to it. But let's wait and see, because it is only game week 1 as well. One mention Lazio. They got a 2-1 win against Bologna. Arnautovic for Bologna. But Lazio, again, I think they're
Arnautovic doing his best for anti-fascism in a change of attitude. Yeah. Quite surprised by that one.
But yeah, Lazio was all about Sergei Milinkovic-Savic again. Can't believe he hasn't gone for bigger sums at the moment, but Lazio are doing a good job of keeping him. Alfredo, I know on your TikTok you kind of tip Lazio to be the outsiders for this season anyway. Do you think they can sustain it this season?
Well, I think I was worried that, as soon as the guy, what was his name? The Portuguese goalkeeper got sent off after 3 minutes. I was like,
what a debut! That was his debut, right?
Yeah. And then obviously Bologna scored. But once Soumaro got sent off, the game completely changed. Lazio kind of clicked into gear, and they weren't, overly impressive, but they did what they had to do. I think it wasn't, basically with my prediction, it wasn't, didn't get off to the greatest start. But I think, if they can, play a game without getting a red card after 3 or 4 minutes next time, I think they'll be able to showcase what Sarri's trying to implement. I think they've got a good squad, and they were 5th last season, and I don't think they'll break into the top 4, but I think they may come 5th. But then after Napoli's performance, I may have to amend that prediction fairly quickly.
There's a lot of teams to squeeze into those spaces. I think there is. I think with Lazio and with Sarri, it's interesting because obviously Sarri ball is such a specific type of football. You need his type of players, but Cellino, the owner of Lazio, does not enjoy spending money, right? He just doesn't enjoy it. So I think they've not really been able to bring in the players that he needs. I think, is he actually going to be able to implement his style? I can't really see it happening.
I think Luis Alberto, they thought was going to go, but he didn't start on Sunday or Saturday. But he did come on, and I think keeping him will be huge, because I think he's such an excellent player. That midfield, him and Milinkovic-Savic in midfield are absolutely excellent together. And I think Romagnoli will be a good signing, Casale as well, and Cancellieri I like as well. Okay. The young Italian forward who can operate on both sides. I think the thing is with Sarri, I think he needs teams that they need to be of a certain level, but not over that level. I think you see it the Chelsea and the Juve because he requires such kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Can't think of the word. No,
balanced.
Don't worry.
He's very strict and regimented with the way he plays isn't strict and regimented, but the roles within his system are very strict and regimented. And I think you need a certain level of player to do that. Whereas I think if the players are world class, I think you struggle. I think that's what works so well at Napoli. And I think maybe at Lazio, the players aren't quite there. I was hoping they would be, but that first week. It's only the first week, though. I'm sticking with my guns. I'm sticking with my guns. It's only the first week. But that's what's been so hard about the first week.
They can bring off Pedro off the bench as well, can't they? Pedro's got a win, volley in him or something like that. So it tends to be the way, doesn't it? Yeah, definitely. Just to wrap it up, Rory, let's talk about some of the fixtures that are taking place this weekend in game week 2. So we've got on Saturday, Torino versus Lazio, Inter versus Spezia. And then we've got on Sunday, Empoli versus Fiorentina, Napoli versus Monza, A big game, I think, for this game week, Atalanta versus Milan. That could be a good one. And on Monday, we've got Roma versus Cremonese and Sampdoria versus Juventus. So, yeah.
We need to
some
very
interesting
quickly
ties.
say as well, for Atalanta, Lookman got his first goal for Atalanta
Yes,
as well.
he did.
Straight
Yes,
out the
he did.
gates. Straight out the
Yes.
gates. I think that's huge. A player that I really, really like and think he needs a proper run at a club. He's always looked impressive. And for him to score on his debut, good work. Another English guy who's going to tear up, say, yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
Definitely. And Sampdoria just look like an old man's club, don't they, at the moment? Quagliarella, Gabbiadini.
I
I was
worry
looking.
for them.
They are in trouble. They are in
Massive trouble.
Yeah.
But yeah. But do you think for Milan, Atalanta are going to be a test for them at this stage? Rory?
Oh, sorry. No, I think, well, it is the first test, right? And they're the first. It's the first big game of the season as well, if you know what I mean. So there's quite a lot of pressure on it. Everyone will be looking, going, right, where are these teams actually at? But we saw last year Atalanta were actually pretty disappointing last year, and especially in the big games, I feel like they did not turn up at all. So I feel like Milan will be feeling fairly confident about that one. But we do know with Atalanta, as always, it will at least be a very good game. It's never boring when Atalanta are in town.
Yes,
so.
very true, very true. Right, Rory, should we go to the Premier League?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, let's go. So where are we going to go to? We're going to try to not talk about Manchester United, right? We're going to try and delay it because otherwise we'll spend about 20 minutes talking about Manchester United.
Should we do that at the end?
We'll do it at the end. I'm going to talk about how I watched Arsenal at the Emirates in the Leicester end and got to witness Gabriel Jesus' first ever goal for the club, which was a beauty. And I couldn't celebrate. It was a very, very, very difficult moment. We were in the Leicester end. It was quite funny. It was like kicking off pre-game, like everyone on beers and whatever else football fans take. And I was kind of recording what was happening and then realised my phone cover and my wallpaper were both Arsenal. And I very quickly had to put it in my pocket, but I need to change that very quickly. But it was a very, very good game. I really enjoyed it. Arsenal played some really good stuff. It was great to see Saliba in person, seeing him kind of close. I was like, wow, this guy does have everything. Even though he scored an own goal, what really impressed me was the attitude at the Emirates. In the past, when a player's made a mistake, everyone's gone, oh, and everyone started moaning. But the whole stadium just cheered behind him and encouraged him. And I was like, something is different at the Emirates this year. Something is happening here. It was a really beautiful performance. I think Leicester they cannot defend set pieces. It's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing. But I think Arsenal played some really interesting stuff. What do you think of it, Adam?
I was a bit surprised by the scoreline. I thought it'd be a bit closer just because I thought Leicester City, they've got their players back that they had injured last season. I thought they might cause you some issues. But Jesus and Martinelli in particular, they just seem to have this link-up play that was incredible. They're just so fluid with each other. And I was going to ask you what your impressions were on that. But also from a point of view of the goals conceded, were you taken aback by that? Because I know Saliba's own goal was a bit misfortunate, has to be said. But other than that, were you kind of positive about the general performance by Arsenal?
I think, we just had lapses in concentration, which is what we did last year. I think if we could just minimise those, it would be great. I think I just still have to repeat in my mind, it's a very young team. There are going to be mistakes. Saliba is, 20 years old? I think that was unfortunate. It was a miscommunication. He's tried to head it wide. It's not gone wide. I think it wasn't anything disastrous. Ramsdale arguably could have done better on the second goal. He went straight through his legs, and that never kind of fills me with confidence. But I think the best thing was the fact that we scored immediately after both those goals. It was within a minute, I think, or within 2 minutes that we scored each time. And it was like, oh no, okay, the setbacks happened and we've not just completely folded. We've just gone out, got the other goal, game over. I think it was really, really impressive. And Martinelli is an absolute monster. When he came to us, he had, I think his football IQ wasn't great and he was very, very scrawny. And now all of a sudden he's just muscle and he knows when to drop off, when to give the ball, when to run. I feel like we've got a proper player there. And him and Jesus, just like you said, unbelievable together. Saka almost got ignored. It was crazy. The whole thing was down the left. And I was like, give it him. He's pretty decent as well. Give him a go. He almost got ignored. But it's exciting. It's an exciting team. Zinchenko was great. having Tierney able to come off the bench, like depth, is just unbelievable. It's very, very, very exciting. Trying not to get overexcited because it's still Arsenal, right? And they've hurt me plenty of times before.
I did like the Arsenal fans chanting about Yuri Tillemans. We'll see you next week.
We'll see you next week. Yeah. I enjoyed that. And I'll tell you what, I'd take it. I'd absolutely take it. Yeah.
Do you think this is maybe the last road for Brendan Rodgers at Leicester, though? Because, like, I think there's other managers out there that are more likely to get the sack first, my opinion anyway. But, yeah, do you think there's a concern for Leicester City fans right now?
I think some of them would be quite pleased to see him go, to be honest. I feel like they're getting a little bit sick of him. They know that he's not being backed. They know that financially he's not being backed, and they've not signed anyone yet. And they're like, guys, wake up, do something. But I think his inability to affect games, like once a game goes away from them, he's unable to change the tide. I don't know what you think of him, Alfredo. What do you think of Brendan Rodgers as a manager?
Well, I think they've just kind of, since that FA Cup win, I thought last year Leicester were, and even that semi-final against Roma, I was so disappointed by them. I thought they really offered so little going forward. And like you said, his ability to change a game, once Abraham scored that, scored the header in the second leg, they were just, I know it was against Mourinho defense, but there was nothing he did to change the game in any way. It was like he was just throwing on players mindlessly without actually trying to implement anything. But I'm not sure. I think the FA Cup win's still fresh enough that it buys him a bit of time.
Yeah, I think,
and it was a European semi-final.
It was. There's still a hell of a run in the competition, right? And I think he does still have credit in the bank. And I think what we're going to see is Leicester. I think kind of maybe Gary Lineker said it on Match of the Day actually, but we'll see Leicester kind of hit a median kind of thing. They've had a great number of years, and maybe we'll see them just kind of start to average out a bit. But I think, they need to buy him some players. They need something new in that squad, and just the defense. He needs at least a new set piece coach, because their inability to defend set pieces is honestly. The second that went in, I just turned around to my mate who was a Leicester fan and whispered to him, like, "Are you going to coach corners? Because we've done this every game against you 3 times now, just the same corner routine, and it works." So I think there's still a lot to be improved in that squad. And Patson Daka looks good, but he's not going to get a solid run until Vardy retires, right? And Vardy's always going to be the starter. I feel like they just need a bit of a fresh impetus in that team. But for Arsenal, it's great. But yeah, I think that's enough on Arsenal. I've done 10 minutes on Arsenal. It's always longer than I intended to be.
Let's talk about then the big game, Spurs versus Chelsea. Very interesting, emotional game, shall we say. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed every second of it, not just from a point of view of tactics, but just how emotive the game got towards the end as well. It was just so fascinating. And I kind of wanted Conte to do the Diego Simeone when they scored the equaliser, but he disappointed me for that. But he made it up at the full-time whistle, didn't he? But yeah, if we start off with yourself, Alfredo, what did you make of that game? Because it's such a contrast of tactics as well, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think from the manager's perspective, like you said, I was hoping when that equaliser went in, I was hoping Conte would run in front of Tuchel, down the touch, go the other. But he didn't. He did put that Instagram post up after, though, which was very
Conte,
very petty, so petty.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think obviously Chelsea were the better side over 90 minutes. I think, to be honest, other than his mistake, bringing it back to Italian football, I thought Jorginho actually was excellent. The best I've seen him play in months. I thought him and Kante just completely run the game. But obviously he did make that fucking horrific mistake in his own box, which led to the goal.
It's classic Jorginho, though.
So classic Jorginho.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I thought Chelsea were unlucky. I think obviously that was a few contentious decisions, shall we say, that probably didn't go in their favour. But yeah, I was happy for Conte anyway.
It was absolute box office.
It was complete box office.
What about you?
I really enjoy Conte as a concept. I think he brings so much. Every league he's in, he just brings entertainment. I hate that he's with that lot, and he actually could do something with that lot. but I think they really didn't turn up. Spurs were terrible. They really did not play well, and it's kind of being forgotten because they got the equaliser, right? And then people just look at the results, of course. I think they were terrible. Chelsea, like you said, absolutely dominated it. And maybe Conte was taking a page out of Mourinho's playbook of like, let's distract the pundits from our performance and make it about kind of something else. But what I really like about that game is that those are two sides that properly hate each other. Like the North London derby, they absolutely hate each other, and Chelsea Tottenham absolutely hate each other. And it means that there's always a scrap, there's always a bit of a bite in the game. But we do need to talk about Romero. He's an incredible defender.
Yeah,
he's a proper bastard, though. Like, he's an absolute bastard. He screamed in the face of Reece James when that equaliser went in, right? Yeah. And, of course, the goal definitely shouldn't have counted for the foul on Cucurella, right? It just seems... I don't know, I'm an Arsenal fan, so I can't really talk about it too much, but he really, really winds me up, and I was kind of annoyed about how much he managed to get away with in that game. He got away with everything.
He did. He was fortunate to stay on that pitch. I mean, if you take away the corner instance, there was so many during the game. Like, obviously, he was just getting rattled very easily, it felt to me. And I was a bit surprised because I thought, you know, he's learned his trade from the likes of Chiellini, etc. on corners. So I would have thought he's got that element to him and he would be calm in those situations. But no, he got really rattled. But a word on Conte's tactics again. It was... I don't know whether it was the tactics or whether it was the players' mentality because, like, just Chelsea seemed more eager. They wanted the ball more. They wanted to get in their faces, which is kind of, I think, disappointing from a Conte perspective because I'm sure he would have wanted his Spurs side to turn up for that match because there's a lot of hype around Spurs being the kind of team that would maybe turn over Chelsea for this game. But it didn't turn out that way. But on the flip side, I looked at this and thought, actually, this is the kind of game that you want Spurs to get those maybe draws or like a point out of the game because when they're not playing as well, this is kind of the form that you want them to be in the top three or like top two. So they did well from that perspective. Very fortunate, as we've said. But also, we have to like talk about the incidents as well. So Cucurella having his hair pulled back. I mean... I also tagged you, Rory, in a video for the equaliser, which was Cucurella's just standing there, like looking around, and then not got a player near him. But then it was highlighted on Match of the Day about Koulibaly as well. Like, what was he doing? There was no like kind of sense of man marking, and that surprised me. I thought he would just challenge for like Kane's header, and he was just on the line for it. Like, it just baffled me. I don't know about you guys, but it
did seem like there was a lack of organisation. I feel like maybe the fact that Chelsea have done this real life Football Manager, just throw a load of players in the same squad and see what happens. Maybe it is going to take some time to like iron out all the creases and get everyone playing together. But there was some shocking defending. But I've got a theory about Conte's mentality and how it might affect Tottenham, and I want to put it out there and see if it's just me being biased or wishful thinking. But I thought that Conte having a complete and utter meltdown, Tottenham are like the kings of just meltdowns, right? And is this going to be a trend throughout the season now of his team and him getting overexcited whenever things don't go their way? Like, is there a potential for this to get out of hand? Like, I don't know what you think, Alfredo or Adam. Like, is Conte's personality the best thing for that Tottenham squad? Or maybe is it just wishful thinking from me? I'm not sure.
I mean, I think it's when you employ Conte as a manager, you know, those explosions, those meltdowns, they're to be expected. He's such an emotional man. He wears his heart completely on his sleeve. And, you know, sometimes maybe that's not the best way to be to get a lot. But you see Italy, for example, 2016 Euros, the worst Italy side I've ever seen in my entire life. I was in France. I went to every game, and the way he managed to galvanize and lift that squad was absolutely incredible. Whether that will work with a more talented squad like Tottenham, I'm not so sure. But all the signs are pointing to him doing really well, and you know, it's just Conte at the end. It is just him. Like, it is. I'm not sure how well it will reflect on the team going forward, but I like it anyway.
That's fair. Maybe it's just wishful thinking for me. I just think that when the heat is on, maybe both him and the squad are just going to completely collapse. I don't know why.
I could see that.
Yeah, definitely. And from my point of view, I think it is going to be down to the players at the end of the day. I don't think it's as much Conte, but Conte might kind of do his traditional thing at January and say, I need more players. I need more players. And that's when the key decisions will be made. Will Daniel Levy give him some more funds? I suspect not, but we'll wait and see. Wait and see, won't we? What did we make of the Liverpool result, by the way? So ended up 1-1. Palace did quite well. I think it's all centered around this Nunes Anderson thing, to be fair. And it kind of highlighted to me, actually, what a hell of a centre-back Anderson is. I mean, he'd be such an upgrade for a lot of teams right now. But start off with yourself, Alfredo. What did you make of this particular matchup?
Well, I only caught the last 20, 30 minutes. In fact, I turned on just when Nunes got sent off. And it was... it was just complete head loss, wasn't it? I saw a montage after the game of all the little spats they had throughout the game, and Anderson had just, it was
just the whole time just pushing him and nudging him and
I remember actually a few years ago when Anderson was at Samp. Was it Samp? He was at Samp, was it? And Juve were linked with him. And I always thought he looked like a good centre back then, but Liverpool, I'm not sure how well Liverpool will do this year. I think they are particularly light in midfield. And Thiago's exceptionally injury prone, and Fabinho doesn't seem to be playing as well as he has done in the past. And suddenly, Henderson's not my type of midfielder. If Milner has to come in, suddenly that midfield looks very, very light and really quite weak.
And there's rumours about Naby Keita leaving as well and getting sick of not starting games. And he also is someone who has a lot of injuries. I feel like it's an area that Liverpool are definitely going to try and address. I just feel like they were really predictable for a Liverpool team who have been one of the most exciting, just absolutely almost abusive teams in the league, just battering people. That Palace were able to contain them fairly comfortably, catch them on the break really naively. I'm going to say it again, Trent getting caught out of the back post. I think on this one, he was out of position. It just seemed really super predictable. And Palace, I think, were ultimately quite unlucky to not get all 3 points. But the sending off for Nunes is just, I think it's a very experienced centre-back playing against an inexperienced striker and just knowing that he can get to him, just knowing you can wind him up. It happens on every pitch in every league, in the country, if you know what I mean. I think he's just been found out there. But it was stupid. I did like his comedy fall, though. The slow-mo fall was a great moment. There was a split second and then he falls. It was great. It was
brilliant. But that goal as well, Eberiche for that pass through to Zaha. I mean, we were talking about it, Rory, last week about whether Zaha would do enough to be the sole frontman, but certainly on that evidence, I mean, he could be Henry-esque. Do I dare say it? He looks incredible. So, very interesting, that one. Let's go to Villa, Everton. It's probably not one that we want to talk about for too long, but to be honest, the only person that I want to highlight is Onana. I thought he was incredible when he came on.
What?
Player, absolute player. But
the
only reason why I want to kind of mention this game is because Dele Alli is linked with a move to Besiktas. I mean, his career.
Bye, mate. Yeah, enjoy yourself.
Mental, absolutely mental.
It's incredible, isn't it?
The drop off, that video now of Mourinho talking to him in the All or Nothing is so prescient now, and so. It's been all over Twitter this week, obviously, and I just watched it every time it's been on. It's such a captivating scene. It's amazing to watch anyway. But I'm like, man, he's giving you all the keys there. He's telling you what you need to do, and you can see it on Dele Alli's face. He's just not listening. He's like, and you're like, you're not listening to a word of this, are you? And now. I can't see a way back for him now. He's 28 now, Dele Alli, 27, 28 maybe. He's not he's kind of like Jesse Lingard, where people just assume he's young forever. He's not that young anymore, and his career has got away from him. And if Everton have bought him for however much it was, 40 million, and are already desperate to get rid of him, then Lampard knows as well that his attitude is absolutely terrible. Like, it's sad to
Yeah.
see in a way because he was a great player. I don't like him as a player, but he was a great
exactly.
player. And it is sad to see someone just in front of your eyes waste their career.
Yeah, that's it. If anything, Everton is summed up by that meme of Frank Lampard, where he jokes for a second and then he goes, "Yeah, but Everton are shit." Or like, yeah, seriously, Everton are crap. Like we're going to be in relegation zone. That's basically Everton this season. So other than that, let's talk about Man United then.
No, Craig, we've got to do Nottingham Forest before we talk about United. We've got to do Nottingham Forest because that game was absolutely mental. How West Ham didn't win this game, I'm still trying to figure it out. But the atmosphere at the City Ground was unbelievable. Great to see that stadium back in the Premier League. Great, it's just unbelievable to see. A very lucky goal. I'm going to say quite a fortunate goal from our knee, but they all count. And I think the main moment was the disallowed West Ham goal. I can't believe. Anybody know what the reason was for that? Like the defender stepped across him, like into his path. I couldn't see any reason for that to be disallowed.
So from what I saw on Sky commentary, they kind of made out that it was the fact that Mikel Antonio had somehow given an advantage to Rice to play that ball because otherwise the Forest player in that could have closed in. Yeah. Yes. But it was very debatable because I can see it from a West Ham perspective. And I suppose if you were their fans, you'd be rightly pissed off as well, to be fair. But I've seen those kind of happen in like five-a-sides as well. And you kind of go, yeah, ref, come on. Like that's happened and nothing ever gets given. So I think they were just fortunate on this occasion. But that said, West Ham did have that penalty and Rice.
They need to take Rice off penalties. Stop putting Rice on penalties. You've got better penalty takers in that squad. I'm absolutely certain of it.
Should have subbed Skamaka on to take it. That's what they should have done.
That's it. That's it.
Well, I was talking to a friend of the show, Tom, today, who's a West Ham fan, and he's getting very, very frustrated at the fact that David Moyes takes 6 months to start new signings. He's like, just play them. You've signed them, play them. Put him in the team, please. Because even when he came on against City, he looked really impressive.
We did,
and gave West Ham a completely new dimension. I think he needs to be getting starts soon because Antonio is much better coming off the bench, I think, and get Skamaka starting. But for Forest, first 3 points, I was worried for them after the Newcastle game, but this is a bit more promising. Even if it was fortunate, it is a bit more promising. It is.
And they're signing more players again.
They're even more.
Morgan Gibbs-White for like 44 mil. Like,
I wasn't even really aware he played in the Premier League. He's left no impression on me, Gibbs-White, and I've watched Wolves a few times. I was like, oh, he's just that defender from there, right? But £40 million is absolutely insane.
It's English plays tax there. English plays tax, unfortunately. So,
that is
I mean, he's a good player.
It's honestly mental. I can't even describe him as a player. I'm like, he's all right, I think. I don't know.
All I can say is I saw him for Sheffield United. He seemed quite good in an attacking sense. He was playing as a striker when he's actually an attacking midfielder, right? But apart from that, he's not £44 million worth of player because you could go to Serie A and get something cheaper, to be fair. So,
you could be signing Milinkovic-Savic for that, arguably. Yeah.
So, but it is impressive the amount of signings they're doing right now. I mean, they were I think they were linked with Freuler from Atalanta as well still. So,
and Aouar from Lyon.
Aouar. And Malpay is still yet to sign for them, apparently, by all accounts. So they could be a really impressive side, but they could have 5 sides at the moment, the amount of players they're linked with. So
the thing was with Forest, and I think you talked about it in our Premier League predictors, like most of their team were all on loan. So they were always going to have a big summer to fill their squad up again. And this is what's happening. I also forgot how rich their owner is. Like he's genuinely absolutely loaded. Like I kind of forgot that. But they're having a big old summer at Nottingham.
I don't know how that FFP is working for them though. FFP, I mean, like Jesse Lingard, he's on like 200k a week. So
I thought FFP had been long forgotten. I didn't think it was still a thing.
I mean, could you imagine Lecce coming up and spending 150 million? Could you imagine? It'd be unbelievable.
Yeah. I'm surprised Berlusconi didn't find that money from Monza somewhere.
True. Right, Rory, shall we bring in Brentford? Let's wheel it in. Let's wheel it in. So
Let's
Brentford won 4-0. I mean, that in itself, like,
is it their biggest ever Premier League win? It's their biggest ever Premier League win.
Yeah, it must be. It must be. I think they only won by 2 clear goals last season. I think it was like 3-0 or 3-1, something like that. But brilliant. Yeah, do you know what? I was just taken aback by how basic the goals were. They weren't mesmerising. They just worked hard. They scored good goals. But
some nice moves, but it was fairly straightforward passing. Yeah,
I feel for Ten Hag, but I then also kind of ask myself, what's he actually been doing with these players? Like,
yeah, you've still been there all summer, and you knew what you were walking into, and you've affected nothing. He's not even going to last till November. My prediction was that he will be under pressure by November. My new prediction is that he will be gone by November. I think that honestly, like, it is baffling how badly run that club is. I'm obviously loving every minute of it. But
yeah,
it is just bafflingly bad. And so when I was coming out of the Emirates as the game started, and all of a sudden this pub explodes, and it's like, oh, well, that's definitely a Brentford goal, like 1-0 Brentford. Then I'm in Tesco, and then some Arsenal fans are like, it's 2-0. The whole Tesco goes mad. And then it's like 3-0. We're all singing United get battered everywhere they go, going down the streets. I was really enjoying it. We managed to catch the second half, and it was just so pedestrian. It was just nothing. I know by that point, Brentford were just like, we just need to see out 45 minutes. Like, this is a formality. But for United, it was just so passive, so pedestrian, just nothing, no running, just they were just there to like fulfill their contract. It was a mad game. But for Brentford, they were really impressive, you have to say, for them to be able to turn up and just get the job done within 35 minutes and then go, okay, here we go, boys. Right, just clock watch and then job done. Like, it is insane. It's insane. And I think things are weirdly just going to get worse for United because this weekend they've got Liverpool.
I don't know about you, Alfredo, as well, but the amount of players that are linked with, it just feels like there's just no thought process about what they're trying to achieve. Because I've made a list. I think it's about maybe 12 players I've got listed that have been linked since that result. So obviously Rabiot was one of them beforehand, but João Felix, Casemiro, Meunier, Vardy, Icardi, Moussa Dembele, Aubameyang, Morata, Jan Sommer, Pulisic, Hudson-Odoi, Ziyech, Antony, Dest, Caicedo, Kuna, and Messier. I mean, I think there's about a few more that are being linked as we speak right now, but it just doesn't feel like they have a clue. And it just worries you. Like, this club is going in a serious meltdown, aren't they? I said last week, whoever they bring in, it's going to be on inflated wages, inflated amounts of money, but it's not going to have a strategy. It's not going to have like a vision of what they're trying to achieve. And I said it's going to take them a decade to get over this. It's going to take longer now. It is literally going to take them longer. I can't see what the future is for Man United. And I'm going to leave at that because I'm sure Andy will kind of fill us in next week, Rory. But for your benefit,
Alfredo,
good
what
luck.
are your thoughts on what the hell is going on at Man United?
Well, it seems strange to me immediately because I thought they were bringing Ten Hag in to, give the club some kind of identity and, philosophy and way of playing. But the signings they've made and are trying to make seem to, completely dispute that. I mean, the fact that Rabiot alone, the fact that they're trying to bring him in says enough to me about their recruitment than anything else. Because they were willing to pay extra. They didn't go all the way. They weren't obviously ultimately willing to pay his wages. Yeah. But they were close to paying him that money and paying, I think it was 15, 20 million for him.
Yeah.
He's the most. He would have done nothing to that. He would have been like he's done for Juve for the last 3 years. He would have gone to Man United and done absolutely nothing. Mm-hmm. I don't know what their idea is going forward. I think they've got a lot of players who are overrated, and I think Rashford has been poor for 2.5, 3 years now. Maguire, even Maguire, Ten Hag coming in to play a high pressing system with Maguire, it's not going to end well. With Maguire,
the guy can't run. He can't run.
Well. I think they're in a bad place, and think it may get worse. But similarly, it would be a very Man United thing to do to go and beat Liverpool 1-0 on Monday.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
And the
Fred
thing
goal
that everyone,
incoming.
yeah, and everyone said this. If they do win against Liverpool, then they go over Liverpool in the league standings as well,
Yeah.
which then puts Liverpool into potentially the relegation zone. So could be interesting weekend.
It would be a great bit of Barclays. It would be a great bit of
would.
Barclays. It would be classic Barclays for that to happen. I think, Liverpool are going to wake up this weekend. I think that's what's going to happen. Liverpool are going to be really determined to win this game, and I think they might not be as merciful as they were last time when the second half, they could have won 9-0 last time, right? And the second half, they were like, all right, that's so embarrassing. I think this time they're not going to be that merciful. So United could be in a lot of trouble, but going through that list of players is honestly mind-blowing. If you think Aubameyang is going to be this, if you think you need another old uninterested striker to join your other one, like I don't know how we can help you. Yeah,
exactly. And he's still linked with Chelsea as well, Aubameyang, which mesmerises me, to be fair. I thought they'd go for someone a bit more livelier than Aubameyang, but never mind. For this weekend, though, guys, we've got Everton versus Forest, which feels like a first 6 point of the season, potentially. I don't know what you guys think, but then we've got also Fulham versus Brentford. Sunday is an interesting one because we've got Leeds versus Chelsea, Newcastle versus Man City, and as we've alluded to on Monday night, we've got Man United versus Liverpool. We haven't spoken too much about Man City, you guys, but Man City had another impressive result against Bournemouth this weekend, probably expected. But against Newcastle, possibly a bit tougher opposition. What's our thoughts? Start off with yourself, Alfredo.
Yeah, I mean, I can't see anything but a City win, to be honest. I think I would, at this stage, even after 2 weeks, you wouldn't bet any money against them winning the title. They look so complete. There is not one aspect of that team that can really be improved.
I think it's Liverpool. Like, there was Liverpool fans on Twitter going, I think we're already out of it. And at first I was like, oh, it's reactionary. And I was like, no, I think actually you're pretty much right. You needed to match them. You've missed out on the title twice by 1 point and by goal difference or something, right? Like, if you're not with them every step of the way, then they look. I think we're at a point where the Premier League, and it's maybe a time for another pod, but we're maybe getting to a point where the Premier League could become the Bundesliga in terms of City just win the league every fucking year. I can't see a time when they don't win it for the next couple of years at least, which is sad to see, but Arsenal are still level on points, so who knows? The title race is still on, right? The title race is still on.
Definitely. Right. Just quickly then, just because it's come up as a kind of topic anyway, the Brexit Super League. So, it came out a few weeks ago anyway, but Galliani has spoken about making sure that English teams don't compete in a future Super League. I know De Laurentiis was very keen to have something very similar. Let's go around the houses. Rory, what's our thoughts about this potential idea?
It just wouldn't be the best competition, would it, if the English teams aren't there? It wouldn't. It ultimately would be a secondary competition because they go, oh yeah, you've won that, but City and Liverpool and the rest of them aren't in it. So I feel like it would just instantly lose value. There's a lot of like hatred from the continent towards the Premier League in general, and I get it because the Premier League outspends, and it can just outspend every other team. It just picks the best players and goes, we're having them. I can understand where the animosity comes from, but ultimately the Premier League is also the best marketed league in the world. It's the best at what it does. That's why it generates the most money. It's not just because the football isn't that clearly the best brand of football. It's just marketed incredibly well. So you have to say any league could have done that, really. So I think it's just a bit of animosity towards the Premier League. That's a bit of frustration from the chairman about their players getting picked off. But if the competition was made, I don't think it would instantly be devalued, I think. What do you think, Alfredo?
Yeah. I think I agree. It comes from that inner frustration of the state of Serie A at the moment. I mean, the infrastructure of the stadiums. I was at I went to see Sampdoria versus Hajduk Split in a
Nice.
then UEFA Cup qualifier in 2007. So this was 17 years after the 1990 World Cup, and in the stadium there were still stickers on the back of the seats from the 1990 World Cup stickers. That they are so far behind, and it's hard. And I understand why they're frustrated when you have newly promoted teams in the Premier League spending over 100 million and they've got these brand new stadiums, and the team who comes bottom in the Premier League earns more in TV rights than the champions of Serie A. There's such a disparity, and it seems to be getting bigger and bigger and bigger every year. And I think they're just trying to find some kind of solution, not just Serie A, Bundesliga, La Liga, who are in a bad position at the moment, and the French league, just to find some kind of way of bridging that gap and making sure that gap doesn't keep getting bigger and bigger every year. They are falling behind, and I think if you're someone who's based in England who goes to Italy every year or every few years, and you see those old stadiums like the Bologna Stadium is a beautiful stadium, and it's the romance of it, which is great if you go there once, but week in week out those stadiums, they're old. The San Paolo is it. It's
a disgrace, that stadium.
It is a disgrace. And a team playing in the Champions League in the Serie A, one of the biggest leagues in the world, should not be playing in a stadium like that. But like I said, I think it's frustration that they're so far behind, and I have no idea how they can bridge the gap, really, apart from maybe being bought by state-backed. That's
the only plan for any team now, I think.
Apart from that, I'm really not sure how things are going to change. But football's cyclical, like everything else in life, and in the near future, the Serie A will be back on top. I'm sure of it.
It will.
Okay, I think we're coming to the close of this episode. So many thanks to you, Alfredo. But more importantly, Alfredo, where can our viewers and listeners find you?
They can find me at the moment on my TikTok account, which is called Azzurri TV. I have a Twitter and an Instagram as well. Probably not as active on there as I should be. But on my TikTok, my videos are on TikTok. So find me there. Pleasure.
No, thank you for being with us. And Rory, just a bit of housekeeping from ourselves. I'm going to be missing for next week, so it'll be yourself and Andy that leads this episode next week. But apart from that, I'm going to sign out with this quote from Jose Mourinho, which was, "You see how Spanish, Italians, Portuguese play football. I don't say they are perfect. I say English football has a few things to learn from them in the same way they have a lot of things to learn from English football." And with that, we'll see you next week. Take care, guys.
Golazo!